Coach Tom here, coming at you in the Freddy Krueger sweater, which is actually pretty appropriate for today's video topic because for those of you who don't know, Freddy Krueger was burned alive, and that's one of the reasons he became the dream demon he would become.
You are all my children now.
But anyway, yeah, we're talking about saunas, so perhaps you can see burned alive, saunas. It makes sense. But I'm pretty much a lifelong lover of saunas. I grew up taking saunas at my grandparents' cabin, and the older I got, the more health and fitness I got, I started to realize and understand, okay, there's more to this sauna thing than simply getting really hot and, feeling those relaxation benefits. That's a big part of the benefits, don't get me wrong, but there's more to it. So I'm going to get into a lot of that in this video, but the premise of this video came more from the cardiovascular benefits. And I have a specific story, a recent story, that I find very intriguing to add to the conversation on cardiovascular benefits of a sauna. I am mostly a bodybuilder who also rolls Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Those are like my two main things. Like in general, I try to be a jack of all trades in the fitness space. I try and dabble in a bit of everything. But if I had to really dial it in to a couple different areas, it would be strength training in a bodybuilding hypertrophy sense, as well as grappling Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I do a little bit of kickboxing here and there as well, but as far as the martial arts go, I'm a big grappler. So my workout schedule would normally be structured in such a way where it's mostly bodybuilding focused, and then based on my schedule, I'd only be able to make it to jiu-jitsu once a week. But that's, in my experience, enough to sort of maintain my skill as well as my abilities otherwise. But to go along with that, I get a lot of steps. That's one of my other main forms of cardio. It's not an intense form of cardio, but I think it's an important one. Not very fatiguing and very easy to do. And then the other one would be saunas. Now, I would love to sauna every day in general, but for a period, I was, sauning maybe a few times a week, just kind of when it would work out time-wise. But I recently did a bodybuilding prep and, had my show a couple weeks back. And during that time, my main approach to cardio was going to be saunas and steps. About 2 months out from my bodybuilding show, I stopped rolling jiu-jitsu altogether. So again, jiu-jitsu was one of my main forms of cardio. And for my money, grappling, it can be one of the most intense forms of cardio you could ever do. If you know, you know. But that was out of the equation leading up to the show, and the reason for that was so I could focus in on the bodybuilding side of things and make sure I'm as prepared as I can be to step on stage. So I was no longer getting that cardio benefit from jiu-jitsu. And again, for those of you who know, taking some time off from jiu-jitsu, usually you'll really feel it on the mats, and especially in your cardio. That's the first thing to go. Again, I would only get to roll once a week, and that would normally be enough to maintain my cardio. But if I miss 1 week, 2 weeks especially, you get back to the mats, and you really feel it. You really feel your cardio struggling. But I went 2 whole months with no jiu-jitsu, just steps and daily saunas. And oh my gosh, so the week after my bodybuilding competition, went back to jiu-jitsu, and it was like I never left. It was insane. I think I rolled 7 rounds, and I went from one to the next with basically no rest. I didn't even refill my water. I felt incredible. Now, this is not me discouraging other more traditional forms of cardio. Traditional forms of cardio meaning, ones where you actually have to get that cardio activity from your movements, such as, running, biking, swimming, all that good stuff. That's all great. Again, not discouraging that, but there is a place for the cardio benefits you receive from sauna specifically. And that is because when you're sauning, as I just said, you're not getting the cardio from your movement per se. You're getting it from your surroundings. You're getting it because the area around you is really hot, and therefore your cardiovascular system is going to struggle a bit. And there are adaptations that are going to be had there. This is another reason that was my chosen form of cardio for this bodybuilding prep, because of course you're going to want to get some extra cardio to burn some extra calories when you are in competition prep. And so I'm not getting a lot of fatigue from my cardio because they're not cardio workouts per se. They're just me chilling in a sauna. But let's get into some of the other reasons why saunas are absolutely incredible. So what we know for sure is that you get that cardio benefit. You get that increased blood flow benefit. There's not a ton of research on saunas. There is definitely some research, and it is promising research, but there's not a ton. And that's going to make some people, especially those who are really, in that science-based space, get a little uppity about it and be like, well, actually, But guys, come on. If we know what a sauna is doing in essence, it's very clear that there's going to be benefits to be had. So yeah, we're getting that cardio increase. We're getting that blood flow increase. As a part of the blood flow increase, we are getting a lot of potential for muscle recovery. Like, really think about it. We know that cold plunges from research and just, again, from using our common sense, are not ideal for hypertrophy, especially in proximity of a workout you've done, because it's removing the blood from your muscles and it's bringing them more into your internal organs. A sauna, on the other hand, brings the blood towards the muscles. Blood carries nutrients. Hello. It can also help you just move better, like for the sake of your joints. And as I mentioned, I like to stretch in the sauna. And one of the reasons is your body is heated up. It's more malleable, and therefore you can potentially get deeper into stretches. And then you have that potential immune health benefit. And again, this just makes sense because this is going to trigger some people, but when you sweat, you're detoxifying your body at least somewhat. There is toxins in your sweat. The extent to which you're detoxifying your body, that's not really what I'm getting at here, but there is some of that going on with the sauna process. But to go along with that, saunas are great for de-stressing. That's also going to be good for your immune system. Also going to be helpful for sleep. But then also, heating your body up can sort of mimic a fever, and therefore that component can help ward off viruses. And then there's even the weight loss component, because yes, you're sweating out water, which is going to help you to lose water weight, which is another thing that's beneficial for bodybuilding. But outside of that, you are going to burn more calories in a sauna versus not being in a sauna. Like if I was sitting right here for like 30 minutes, if I was doing that in a sauna, from my research, I've gathered you could potentially burn 2 to 3 times as many calories by existing in a sauna versus not. But even then, as I mentioned, I don't really just sit in a sauna. I like to stretch when I'm in the sauna. So you get a little bit more movement while you're in there as well. Not a ton of intense movement, but some movement that's going to help bring your heart rate up even more whilst in that hot environment. It's even been said that this can help ward off cancer, Alzheimer's. But you look at Finland and the mortality rates there in conjunction with sauna, it looks very promising. Finland! And again, if we just observe what a sauna is and what it's doing, it just makes sense. This is also a practice that is, thousands upon thousands of years old, and I tend to think that those things that have stuck around for that long, there is something to it. And anybody who does sauna regularly, they know there's something going on there. They know that there are benefits to be had. And as far as the different types of saunas go, the most common ones you'll hear about are going to be infrared and the dry saunas. And I think both are great options. The main difference being the amount of heat that you're going to receive from one versus the other. And dry saunas, traditional saunas, are going to get a lot hotter. But infrared saunas, though not as hot, they essentially don't need to be as hot because the way the infrared heat works is it's a bit more direct. So it's heating you as opposed to the environment around you. So both are great options. And I know that saunas aren't always the most accessible thing. They're becoming more accessible. There are options online, affordable options. But if like your gym or your apartment has a sauna, or you have a friend who has a sauna or sauna access, please try and use that as regularly as you can. And again, if you're in a position where you can potentially purchase a sauna, we spend money on much, much dumber things. This could be something that changes your longevity. So again, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I wish I was, because I could sell me some saunas, let me tell you. This is something I believe in wholeheartedly. I'm going to go take a sauna a little bit later tonight, and again the next day, and the next day, and the next day.
And the next day, 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 and...
But I think that's all for today's video. Look forward to more health and fitness wisdom from Success Fitness and Training and yours truly, Coach Tom. Have a great day, night, or whatever it might be for you, and I wish you health and happiness. Bye-bye.
Phone call, Mr. Plankton.
And the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day.